between government versus corporate.
Okay.
And, like, ethical issues.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I was, like, kind of wanted you to talk about was, like, with Superfest and then the transfer, but if you don't want to talk about that, then you don't have to.
I mean, it's totally whatever you want.
Because wasn't that kind of like conflict of interest at first? And
Well, only if they were to do it, and I would benefit from sponsorship or anything, but that's not the case, so it doesn't matter.
okay.
So it's okay to you.
Just like any ethical dilemmas that you faced, like with like.
Well, I guess that wouldn't really be a public relations deal. That's more of an HR deal. So I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from an ethical standpoint, I mean, anytime that you take on a position, regardless if it's public or private, you have to disclose. Typically, your outside, either if you own a company or your outside employment activities. So, but that's more of an HR deal.
Mm-hmm.
And most times you can't turn around and sell what you were doing on the outside to to your employer, because that you basically are being double paid at that point. From an ethical standpoint, you just want to make sure that one, your current employer knows what you have going on the outside, and then two, that you're not double dipping or benefiting and leveraging both situations.
Okay. So are you recording?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, can you tell us about your job and how here at the City Hall and how it works with public relations?
So the public relations aspect of this position, I'm a logistics manager in the Office of Economic Development, specifically for sports and entertainment. As far as public relations is concerned, it's more interfacing directly with the public as far as who would participate in an event, either attending or who would help produce an event. The public relations aspect comes into play when you have to interface with the news media and tell the news about the event as far as promotions is concerned. We do a lot of both online and offline promotions. We work with different community organizations and groups to pull them together to get support for different initiatives that we do. And that's important because all the events that we have, most of them are free to the public, but they have to resonate with most people from the community so that everyone feels welcome, no matter race, creed, color, no matter age, or whatever your status is and that sort of thing. So we have multicultural events, we have sporting events, so we try to run the range.
Okay. Are promotions and events harder than they look to make happen?
I think it really depends on the folks that you hire to help produce them. Our job is really just to manage. So we plan and manage the events. The implementation, the people who actually build the infrastructure for the events, as long as they're experienced and have an understanding of how to work with an organization formally, then it works out fine.
Good. And when you're working for the government, like you said, there's free events, it's for the public. Doesn't matter gender, age, race, anything. Do you see benefits in your work with is it a higher reward helping the community versus maybe working with a corporation and specific those type of goals?
Well, the big difference in working with the government versus private, first and foremost, is that you're really a public servant. So my job is to serve the public. Everybody who works for the government, their customer is the taxpayer, regardless if it's local, state, or federal employment. So with that idea, it's good to be able to pull folks together, with the different things that we do here as far as the events and all the activities and all the promotions and PR and stuff that we do. I think that there's always drawbacks because you can't please everybody, but you're using everyone's money from a tax standpoint. So that's where it gets a little tricky. But for the most part, I think everyone who works in the government, the idea is that we want to make the community better.
Good. Yeah. And then have you worked in corporate communications?
The first 10 years of my career was corporate, and I still do private PR, marketing. Actually, the federal government is one of my clients, and so I consult, and then I work here. So I understand it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the main difference you'd say is the taxpayers?
Yeah, you're just having to please a larger um, a larger base of stakeholders, right? It's not just I have one customer. I have, in this case, 1,000,000 customers, because everyone who's in Jacksonville and paying taxes are the customers, and so it's very hard, to balance what maybe the smart approach versus what people will accept, especially when it comes to resource allocation, budgets, and things like that.
Okay. And so it's easier in corporate to allocate budgets and get things done in an edgier way?
Yeah, because there's no red tape typically, depending on how large your corporation is. But in my case, when I work with my private clients, I make the decisions. I can buy whoever I want to buy from in terms of my products and services that I need to resell. With government, you have red tape. Everything has to be scrutinized.
Okay. How do you get appointed for a government communications position? Is it
Appointments are very tricky. It's one of those things where you're sought after specifically for a specific role for a specific amount of time. And it's a little bit different because in government there's usually appointed roles, and where you're hired for a short period of time to do something very, typically sometimes very unique, or that you bring a unique skill set. And a civil service role, you are basically, the government is your career. And so most times it's who you know when you get an appointment, based on your track record, experience, and what you bring to the table that's unique. Yeah.
And so civil servants, like for like the students, that are pursuing careers in public relations, and if they wanted to work for the government, I mean, what is the best route to go about? Like just doing, like having experience first, and then.
I would say, like anything, regardless if it's corporate or government work, just know what your intention is, and know sort of the timeline in which you're trying to sort of accomplish that intention or goal. I don't think there's a right or wrong, but I didn't plan to get an appointment. It just, because of the things I was doing in the private sector, most government entities, agencies, they want to operate more efficiently. Typically, private sector operates more efficiently than government sector. And so depending on your performance in private, you may get an appointment. But as far as the career track itself, regardless if you start out in the government space or you start out in the private space, the experience, if you decide to switch, can be helpful in either situation.
Great, that's helpful for us, I think. And I don't want to waste too much more of your time. You answered the ethical questions, and I was going to say, you also DJ, and like you said, you work in the private sector, you're an entrepreneur. Can you tell us about the PR skills that have helped make you successful through all of those endeavors?
Are you putting all my stuff out there? Yeah, I do a lot of stuff. I was, the first company I was with was a one-person shop, and we grew to a multi-million-dollar company. I was vice president for 10 years doing that. And when you do a startup situation, you have to learn how to do everything. Most of your time is spent selling. And I think that skill set in learning how to sell encompasses public relations, marketing, promotions. And when you realize when you're working for a PR firm, a marketing firm, you have to sell any kind of product or service. So over the last 10 years, I've sold everything from Medicaid to sneakers. And so if you get the concept of how to market and sell, if you're an entrepreneur with a million ideas, you can market and sell anything. So I'm not in love with any particular product or service. I have many skill sets. It just, whatever the demand is, whatever a customer asks me for, I can supply it. Because all I'm going to do is call up somebody who specializes in it, package it, and give it to them. When you work for an ad agency, you're doing the same thing. And so that's my background. So my product and service, my specialty, is just to make sure that whatever client comes to me, and the government is my client. Whatever they need, I provide the best customer service I can, and I'll just supply it at the best rate I can. So as far as my DJing and promotions and band management, and then on the flip side, I consult, I do project management work, I'm into healthcare, I'm into, all these sorts of things. It's just marketing. So I'm a marketing guy. And no matter the product or service, when it comes to promotions, public relations, marketing, it's all the same. My job is to move it along, provide the customer the best experience possible. So.
Okay. I think that sums it up.
Perfect.